office who is joining us from the Pacific Community Office in Suva. So he will be helping me a lot with the technical details of the webinar today, with the screen sharing and so forth. So thank you in advance, Navneet, for all your help. Please, if we could move on to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so just some general housekeeping rules, please. Before we dive into our discussions, we have a few things that we'd like to go through with you. Firstly, we do have a Q&A function that is towards the bottom of the Zoom screen. Please use this as much as possible to submit any questions that you have ahead of time. We do have our esteemed speakers with us today, and they will be able to answer as best they can throughout this webinar today. We'll be conducting a Mentimeter exercise in the middle of this activity. So we'd like to encourage you all, if you have a smartphone, which we hope that you have access to, or if you're able to use your browser, please, if you could connect with us all during that point. This session is going to be recorded, so we'll share the recording along with any presentation materials, if any, after the webinar ends. So this ensures that you can revisit any of the content that you like at your convenience. So any of the presentations that are shared today, the full recording from today will also be shared with you all following the end of this session. So thank you for your attention, and let's work to make this as interactive and a valuable experience for all. Thank you, Navneet. On to the next slide, please. So for those of you who are joining this event for the first time, this phase of the Pacific Disaster Risk Knowledge Series builds on the foundation that was laid during the first phase of the knowledge series, convened between May and August 2022, and comprised of 4 online events. This series aims to bridge the gaps by strengthening the understanding of the practical use of disaster and climate risk information in assessments, promoting open access to risk data, and building national capacities to strengthen awareness and understanding for the interpretation and application across sectors. So I really just want to emphasize this point that especially because for this third event, this is what we're really going to dive into a lot. Each of these knowledge series, as you'll see here on the screen, have focused on a different topic, starting from the first one, which was held in August, to the second one, which was held in October, and the third one, apologies, this should read December, but December 2025. So focusing more on the application of risk assessments and looking at them in practice. So as we know, significant progress has been made in generating climate and disaster risk data across the Pacific. Its practical application in planning, budgeting, investment, and decisions remain quite uneven. This third event aims to respond to this gap by showcasing how risk assessments have been successfully translated into real-world decisions across urban zoning, for example, infrastructure, development, and financial planning. So this event will highlight case studies from Pacific Island countries. So we have with us 2 Pacific Island countries that will be showcasing, both Vanuatu and Kiribati, where disaster and climate risk information has shaped policy, influenced investment, and supported resilient outcomes in these countries. This session will further unpack the risk information application process, promote cross-sectoral integration, and inspire replication of good practices. So practices that have worked well in other regions, in other countries, in other contexts. Thank you, Navneet. Next slide, please. So I'm very happy to briefly introduce you all to our speakers for today. You can see them here on the slide. As mentioned earlier, we'll be hearing from case studies from both Vanuatu and Kiribati. We'll be hearing about the risk the risk assessments that have been done in this region in these countries, apologies, to inform some of the key decisions on the ground in these countries as well. This session will focus on turning these insights into actions. We will also hear from PICRIC, who will be joining us here today, as well as CDRI. In short, we have an excellent lineup of speakers today. And to maybe just to set the scene as well, we do have, we do have Samantha Cook, who is the Director for Disaster Risk Management at the Asian Development Bank with us here today. She will be giving us our keynote presentation. So Navneet, apologies if I could just go to the last slide before we pass over to you, Samantha. Thank you. So this last slide is just a quick representation of who we are and how to contact us and where to next. So as you can see, our contact details are here. We are a joint team effort between the Asian Development Bank, the Pacific Community, and we hope to have a fourth event, a face-to-face event in Q2 of 2026 next year. So we hope to have more participants moving forward and to be able to further the work of this application of risk data and information across the region. Thank you so much. Navneet, to the next slide, please. So to set the stage, I am very delighted to introduce Samantha Cook, Director of Disaster Risk Management at the Asian Development Bank. Samantha will highlight why risk data and assessments must drive decisions and how various reports and outcomes that have recently been released by ADB and other partners provide a foundation for embedding risk insights into policy and investments. After her keynote, I will share the link to the report that she will reference in the chat so you can explore it further. Thank you, Samantha, and over to you.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Navneet, as well. Our unsung heroes in the background, our IT counterparts. So first and foremost, greetings to all of you. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to the third event, the Pacific Risk Knowledge Series, a conversation on how risk information and data provide a critical foundation for building resilience across the Pacific. I was lucky enough to be present at the recent disaster risk reduction ministerial meeting and the regional disaster managers meeting in Palau. Many important regional initiatives were shared during those meetings, such as the Pacific Humanitarian Response Coordination Mechanism, the Climate Mobility Framework, disaster risk management and financing, and early warning and anticipatory action. While each of them has their own focus, they all share one essential ingredient: risk data and information. From ADB's perspective, strengthening climate and disaster risk information is central to our efforts to scale up resilient investments across the Pacific region. It provides the basis for our engagement with member countries on resilient land use planning, critical infrastructure, disaster risk financing, among other things. During the ministerial meeting, we also had the opportunity to launch the Pacific Multi-Hazard Disaster Risk Assessment Landscape Study. This is the study that Rachel mentioned a moment ago that we will share the link to afterwards. This study was developed in partnership with SPC's Geoscience, Energy and Maritime Division, the GEM division. The study demonstrates both significant progress and also gaps in how risk information is generated and applied by countries, development partners, and the private sector. So just allow me a moment to highlight some of the gaps that were identified in the study. So what we found is that risk data is abundant, but uptake is uneven. Many Pacific Island countries have access to risk information, but it's not consistently applied and translated into decisions. It seems like everyone has a piece of data that they hold on to, but it's not necessarily shared and used as it could be. And that's something that we'd like to work on in the future. Capacity remains a critical bottleneck, was another key finding. So we want stronger national institutions, training, and mentorship. All of these things are needed to empower Pacific experts and decision makers. We found fragmented data sharing limits application. Open, centralized platforms and data sharing agreements are essential to place data in the hands of planners and communities who need it most. And again, that point, if you do have a piece of data, please do share it. Data is only valuable if it's used. If it sits on someone's computer and nobody looks at it, it's not going to be very helpful. Emerging hazards are underrepresented. Risks such as disease outbreaks, cascading infrastructure failure, and systemic climate impacts are not yet well accounted for, nor are gender considerations and traditional knowledge. On the subject of emerging hazards, one of the ones that's coming up a lot at the moment is extreme heat. And this is something where I think we have the potential to do a little bit more data collection surrounding that, because it's quite difficult to really understand and ascertain what the impacts of extreme heat are. And then, of course, last but by no means least, policy embedding is essential. Risk information must be hardwired into national strategies, investment decisions, and financing instruments. Only then does data move from reports to real-world resilience. And that's the ultimate goal. We want the real-world resilience more than we really want the reports. Today's session intends to spark dialogue on what is working, what isn't, and how we can collectively strengthen the uptake and application of risk information, recognizing that resilience is not achieved through data alone. It is achieved when data is owned, understood, and applied by those making decisions on the ground. Today, you will have the opportunity to hear from Pacific Island countries, showcasing how they are turning risk data into action, using it to shape decisions in disaster risk finance and infrastructure development. Our speakers include, firstly, from Vanuatu and PQIC, Pacific Catastrophe Risk Information Company. We have Tony Kaltong from the Ministry of Finance from the Government of Vanuatu. We have Aholotu Palu, the Chief Executive Officer of PQIC. And then secondly, from Kiribati and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, we have Takena Redfer, the Director of Kiribati National Disaster Management Office. And we have Philemoni Tangithakibau, Senior Specialist, Pacific Islands Region, Infrastructure for the Fort Resilient Islands Initiative of the CDRI. That one was the tongue twister. I hope you enjoy this session, engage deeply, and leave inspired. Myself and my colleagues here at ADB look forward to more collaboration with SPC, our Pacific member countries, and partners on the Risk Knowledge Series in 2026. Vanaka Vakalevu.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And I wish we could all applause at the same time with you in person, but I'm sure there's a lot of applause going on around the different countries that are logged in today. So thank you again for your time, Samantha. We know that you have a few prior engagements this week. So we do also note that you'll have to leave us a little bit earlier than expected today. But we just wanted to extend our heartfelt gratitude and thanks for being able to squeeze this session in today. So thank you again, Samantha, for that. To everybody who is on the call now, I have just shared the link to the Pacific Multi-Hazard Disaster Risk Assessment Landscape Report that was mentioned by Samantha. So you're welcome to view that at your own convenience, and we hope that you'll enjoy the read. And if you have any feedback on the report or anything that you would like to add to it, any new risk data sets or information that you would like to add as well, please let us know. We're always open to hearing more from you all. But as we go ahead, Navneet, please, if I could just ask you to share the screen again. We will be starting off with our first speaker today, Mr. Tony Kaltong Luke, who is from the Ministry of Finance and Economic Management at the Government of Vanuatu. So Tony has been closely involved in the development of the Vanuatu National Disaster Risk Financing Policy. Tony, good morning and welcome. How are you this morning? Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Rachel.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you so much for joining. So Tony, our first question to you, please, is could you walk us through how risk data was integrated into the National Disaster Risk Financing Policy, and what steps were most critical in moving from analysis to implementation? Thank you, and over to you, Tony.
Thank you, Rachel. I think, first of all, I'd like to join Samanda to take this opportunity to thank everyone for being part of this call, and especially from Vanuatu to be part of this um, virtual call. And Firstly, I think that with regards to your question, yes, we've undertake and develop the Vanuatu National Disaster Risk Financing Policy since 2022 until 2023, and we've finally get it approved by the cabinet in 2024, at the end of 2024, and the policy is for 2024 to 2027, and we yet to implement the policy, uh, but I think one key undertaking that we've took together with the partners, with ADB, with World Bank, BICRIC, and the SPC PIVs, that have helped us to develop the DRF policy. One key and the undertaken was to ensure that there's a diagnostic study done on specifically on the current environment in country, what systems we have currently, including human capacity, as well as policies, governing instruments that we have in country to ensure that there's a good study well taken before the study is being developed. And you rightly mentioned that Vanuatu, for one, is very prone to and vulnerable to a lot of disasters, similar to other Pacific Island countries. So I think we have to ensure that our systems are capable to able to sustain us and even help us to recover from different types of disasters that we are faced with. So I think one thing that we've undertaken was to ensure that there's a deep dive in our system, our current systems, to ensure that we see the strength and the weaknesses, the gaps that we have identified, and that's put together in the policy to ensure that the policy address those gaps. Yes, I think I'll stop from here, and maybe I could add some other explanations again, a follow-up question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. Yes, we will definitely come back to you with with a few follow-up questions. I do know it has been a journey to get to the strategy, and it'll be one that I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions on from our audience as well. So thank you. We will definitely come back to you. Oh, sorry, did you want to add something, Tony? I saw it. Yes, go
Yes,
ahead.
sorry. I think I'd also like to add that since we've just developed the policy, we still need partners to chip in to help us to fully develop the implementation plan. I think the strategy is similar to what the other Pacific Island countries have also had a similar type of strategies, but it helps us to ensure that financing for disasters, along with TRM, is fully embedded into the policy. With for Vanuatu itself, there's three agencies that are looking after disaster. So we have the NDMO Met Office with the Ministry of Climate Change, recovery with the Prime Minister's Office, finance with financing for disasters is with Ministry of Finance. So that is a challenge that we need to address, like maybe some other Pacific countries will also have the similar experience, but the policy will try and ensure that we bring everybody to the table, and we plan together to ensure that we be able to be resilient to the type of efforts that we put across to strengthen our national systems, our capacities, institutions, to ensure that we work collaboratively to strengthen our national systems. Yes, but I think I'd also like to take this opportunity to extend a call to partners to also support us when we do the development of the implementation plan of the DRF policy. But I think a key message that I've seen during the implementation is we have to ensure that data is factual and it helps to support decision making. And that's one thing that I've seen through the help of the partners that we've undertaken to ensure that the policy is supported with facts and data that we've collected within the region as well as nationally. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Tony. Again, I think what you highlighted about, different, even within the government of Vanuatu, there's so many different ministries that are involved on various levels, with the proposed implementation work. This can always be a challenge as well. And I think, moving forward, things will, I guess, organically grow, if you will, and perhaps change as well. Your approaches may change to the ways that you work together and the ways that you partner up on the various tasks that are under the financing strategy. But thank you again for your initial interventions, and I know we definitely will have more questions for you. So please stay with us on the line. Thank you so much, and we'd like to next welcome our next speaker. So Mr. Aholotu Palu, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Pacific Catastrophe Risk Insurance Company. So Aholotu, thank you so much again for joining us this morning. Thank you for being willing to speak. We would like to ask you, please, how has risk analysis informed the design of PICRIC's insurance products, and what lessons can we draw from the adjustments to payment triggers and thresholds? Thank you, and over to you, Aholotu.
Thank you, Rachel. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to start off by acknowledging the our fellow speakers and the participants in this webinar for taking the time to also attend and listen to us while we're having this talanoa, this theme. And thank you also, Rachel, for this opportunity, recognizing the existence of PICRIC and inviting us to be part of this event. Much appreciated. I think the theme given to us for today's talanoa, Rachel, is a very powerful one. It's powerful in fact because the Pacific Resilient depends on turning risk insights into decisions that lead to the development and protecting people and economies. To that, it needs a lot of political decisions, commitment that is based on understanding what to do, why we are doing it, and how to do it within the resilient ecosystem, which means how are we going to embed asset analytics into budgets, infrastructures, planning, and social protection system, and leveraging regional mechanisms like PICRIC, and be able to change the mindsets of the countries. So for what I just said, I wanted to focus on three issues. One is integrating risk. This is really to answer the question that you posed to me, Rachel. One is integrating risk into the national system or the public finance management machinery. Second is regional cooperations. And thirdly is the changing of mindset. these three, and even the first one, when I said integrating risk into the national system, this is easier said than done because it requires a lot of political decision, as I alluded to in my earlier remarks. It also requires reliable and credible data to be able to inform leadership in the Pacific, or whether it's the national government or anybody is participating in this space, to really inform them of the right decisions to do when it comes to, building resilience on a national level and also in the regional level. And it also requires a better understanding and knowledge of how to do it and what to do. It requires a lot of financial and human resources to undertake that needed improvement in the national system. It requires also to include in this effort to look into sectors, what will be included, what is not included. So these are we looking at the sectors for infrastructure sector? Are we looking at the social sector? Are we looking at something called climate-proof activities? Knowing the fact that the Pacific is highly exposed, we are yet to have a very effective social protection program in all of the countries in the Pacific. These are things that requires a lot of understanding when it comes to the national effort of trying to integrate when it comes to risk inform or risk informations or risk layering into the whole national system. What I meant by integrating of the risk inside to the national system, I mean, I'm referring to when you bringing risk, integrating or mainstreaming into the whole public finance machinery, right from the planning process to the budgeting process, including procurement, including oversight. If that's going to happen in all countries in the region, then our Talanoa today will become more effective at least in the next year. If it's not going to happen in the next year or so, perhaps maybe within the next 5 years, then the Talanoa today will continue forever, because it's really important for that integration of the informations to the whole system, because that's where the leaders in the Pacific can be able to receive and inform these informations to make an informed decisions on what to do and what to implement based on their own, when it comes to building resilience in their own country. When it comes to regional cooperation, that's very important. Regional cooperation. It's also important on the national level. It's critically important when it comes to regional engagement or regional level, because the Pacific region's resilience cannot be achieved in isolation. That's the fact. It can be achieved in isolation. I'm from Tonga, Rachel, and there's a Tongan proverb that says, "No warrior stands alone." It means our strength as a country, our strength as a region lies in standing together. And that should be that's more like an APEC guidance that should guide the work that we're doing regionally and the work that we're doing on the national level. We all know our Pacific people have endured cyclones, floods, you name it. But regional cooperation enables us to build the risks together, share knowledge, and secure affordable disaster financing through various financial mechanisms or solutions that have been nationally established or regionally established, like PICRIC, the Pacific Catastrophe Risk Insurance Company. It was established by the finance minister in the Pacific for two things. One is to provide a very practical financial protections against national disaster solutions. And second is to also provide an educational platform opportunities to the Pacific people to really understand what service is available for them to tap in post-disaster and also pre-disasters. But it was also established also to close the gap in the market. There's no other organization in the Pacific region can be able to provide a rapid liquidity transactions in the country post-disasters like PICRIC. And that was the rationale of the establishment of the company. We have to understand not just by speaking about it, but by understanding resilience in our hearts of us officials who are attending here, or even the future event that they will attend, from all the stakeholders who help the leadership making the right decisions. Resilience, as I said, is not an abstract. It is our lived reality. But today, the scale of disasters has outgrown the scale of our economies. That is why regional cooperation is critical. Our modern societies and economies are simply not on a scale to take on this upside challenge alone. It strengthens our negotiation power when we collaborate regionally in the global forums and ensuring that the Pacific voice is heard and supported. So by aligning these regional policies and all these mechanisms that our leaders have been established, it allows us to coordinate recovery and relief effectively. It builds capacity together. It transforms vulnerability into solidarity. And it's also lead to some sort of creating a strategy that ensure that no nation stand alone when disaster strike, and that our collective strength, it's safeguarding communities, economies, and future across the Pacific. I wanted to end up with the last one, changing mindset. You know, when we talk about disaster risk finance, it's a very difficult concept, or maybe perhaps that's a new concept to most countries and most officials to really understand in the face of public finance machinery. And changing mindset to moving away from reactive to proactive, moving away from isolation to regional integrations, moving away from short-term thinking to a more like long-term thinking. It's not an easy task, because changing the mindset in the Pacific it's something that it's well established in some of our officers' mind. Because when we talk about disasters related to, let me speak from a more like an insurance perspective. When we talk about risk pooling coming from a parametric insurance, and then when Pacific people hearing this word insurance, for them it's immediately the immediate reaction is, oh, this is a cost. It's not an investment. We rather just wait. If something happened, then we wait the donors and our neighbors, our friends, our families, they will provide handouts. So that's whole process has been established well embedded in mind of most of us officials. But we have to slowly embrace the fact that we have to move away with that thinking, with that mindset, and try to think deeply about being proactive rather than reactive. Rather than waiting for the donors post-disasters to provide handouts, we have to be more proactive, start thinking about how are we going to access to any available financial resources or financial instruments so you can tap into. Think about diversifying your financial sources, because if anything happened, you can be able to tap into these financial resources and maximize the return for your response or for your relief or your recovery effort that you're doing for your country, and move away with this isolation thinking that you're thinking, you can fix it yourself. It's come down to something that I call teamwork. It's more like regional working collectively, working together. And that's how our strength, as I alluded to earlier on, Rachel, our strength comes when we are working together and collectively. So the outcome of, thinking about the theme being given to me to make my remarks, the outcome of what I just said, it's more like putting people's protections first. And that's the end of the day. We're not dealing with anybody else. The first thing we should put in our mind as officials is people protection first, through a safeguard system for all the vulnerable households. And regional cooperation helps strengthen that resilience by pooling the risk, using the data that we have, analyze the data to make sure that the service that we offer to the countries are very practical, very simple for their understanding, and be able to offer a lower cost and build some sort of a collective strength so that the community can recover faster, economies can remain stable, resilient becomes embedded in development pathway. So if we be able to do all this, I guarantee by turning risk insight into real world decisions, the Pacific countries, we are charting a pathway where communities are protected, economies remain stable, and then recovery will be swift. This is what I call resilient in practice. Data transform into decisions, and decision into security for our people. Thank you for your listening. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Aholotu. And I think just between you and Tony, I am trying my hardest to take down all the notes and all the insights that you shared with us today. And I'm really glad that this session is being recorded so that I can go back and go over both you and Tony's intervention as well. But I really liked how you emphasized the protection of people at the end of the day and being proactive versus reactive. And I think, at least from my perspective, sometimes in the region, we think about insurance insurance as, such a high upfront cost. But then, when we look at the longer term benefits and the return on investment, it actually has the potential to reduce our longer term costs as well. And I think it's sort of about finding that good balance between the both. So between those both. So thank you again, Aholotu, for that initial intervention. Please stay with us on the line. We will be going through more questions later. So thank you again to Tony and Aholotu for your initial interventions. Navneet, we will be switching now. So we are now honored to welcome Ms. Takena Redfern, who is the Acting Director of the Kiribati National Disaster Risk Management Office. She is also most recently the winner of the 2025 Women's International Network for Disaster Risk Reduction Leadership Award. So unfortunately, Takena is engaged in the KNEG meeting, so the National Expert Group meeting currently being held in Kiribati. But she was able to spare a little bit of time this morning after a lot of pestering from me to be able to do a pre-recorded session quickly. So she is with us here in spirit, and she is with us as part of a pre-recorded session as well today. So Navneet, please, if I could just ask you to share the screen and audio for Takena's interventions today. Thank you. Moment. Okay, good morning, Takena, and thank you again for your time this morning. We note that you have a lot of things going on in Kiribati this week, but we're thankful for the time that you've managed to spare to speak to us today. So as mentioned, Takena, from your perspective, we'd like to highlight how risk information is being used not only to strengthen disaster preparedness, but also to guide long-term infrastructure planning in one of the most climate vulnerable nations in the Pacific, Kiribati. So our question to you, Takena, is, can you describe how risk information is being embedded into infrastructure planning in Kiribati, and what partnerships or processes have enabled this? Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Rachel, and good morning to you as well. First of all, I want to thank the organizers of this webinar for inviting me and be part of this discussion. And with regards to the question, I think this is a very important question to Kiribati because, as we know now, in recent years, our government has been investing in a number of infrastructure projects, and both at the urban areas and outer islands. So therefore, the embedding of the risk information in this project is very important, especially the climate change and disaster risk data and information. So key project now that we have in place, the outer islands ones that we know, we are working on the coastways, seawalls, airports, the runways, the wharves, the ports. Okay? And this project now, they are increasingly being designed with the use and the integration of future climate risks. And these climate risks are the primary ones to us as a low-lying nation, such as the sea level rise, storm surges, and coastal erosion. And then we also have other urban expansion and land use planning also in the planning stage, and they also consider risk in the planning of these infrastructure projects, such as housing, community buildings, and services. And they are also integrating the climate and disaster risk as they plan for these urban projects or land use planning. The water security, the sanitation, and the critical services such as the health and the clinics in the outer islands as well as in Tarawa. They are also integrating the rainwater harvesting, the groundwater protection, and the resilient design for these major projects. As you know, our nation is extremely limited, have limited land area, and we are low-lying with a large proportion of our population concentrated on just a few islands with narrow land area, and this is particularly on South Tarawa. And that means that our infrastructure development needs to be well planned because they will be highly concentrated on the coastline or coastal areas. And that's the main concern for our country and the government because we are low-lying and we are highly exposed to those climate and disaster risks that are related to the sea level rise, the storm surge, spring tide. So because of these infrastructure developments plans we have in place now and are still planning for the future, we currently have now mechanisms and policies in place that we are trying to strengthen the embedding of risk information in the infrastructure planning. And one from our office that we already have established is the framework, the policy framework where we have this Kiribati joint implementation plan for climate change and disaster risk management. It's a 10-year plan, and in this plan, we consider it as the central instrument for mainstreaming our climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction across the sectors. So the infrastructure, the water security, food security, health, and this ensures that these sectors developments already mentioned are planned with risk in consideration or integration in these sectors. Also, we see that our Kiribati Development Plan 2024 to 2027 risk-informed planning remains as a key priority as well. So this plan calls for integrating the climate and disaster risk into the sectoral policies and other development plans and sector strategic plans. And the key ones, which is the budget allocations for implementing the programs and the activities in this Kiribati development plan. We also have in place our Disaster Risk Management and Climate Change Act 2019 and the regulation. And this legal framework, we have established the National Coordination Platform for Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management, which we call it the Kiribati National Expert Group, the KNEC. And this body oversees the risk-informed planning for the country across all levels, the island, the sectors, and the national. And from the Infrastructure Ministry, we know that they also have some work to revise their building standards, and then they are also having a new building code that revised and strengthen the embedding of the risk data and information as the infrastructure are designed and built in throughout the country. With the data and the data system and the data collection work, we are fortunate to receive funding support as well through the CDRI, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. And we have two projects now that they're helping us to improve and strengthen our data collection and database system on the infrastructure resilience geospatial database with SPC, and then our recent project now with UNDRR to enhance risk information for infrastructure in Kiribati as well. So with this project, we are aiming to strengthen our disaster risk data systems, early warning capacity, and the tracking of the loss and damage in our critical infrastructures. And this really helps a lot with decision making and informing future infrastructure and upgrading of infrastructure in the future. With the KOIRAP, or the Kiribati Outer Island Resilience and Adaptation Project, KOIRAP, They also have an activity on the risk-informed spatial planning at the outer islands and also at the urban areas. And this project is supported by the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery. And it aims to embed the disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation in the land use, urban expansion, and public infrastructure planning. So in this activity, they map safe areas for settlements and expansion. They identify the zones that are high risk for the mainly for the coastal hazard like the inundation and coastal erosion. And then they prioritize the resilient infrastructure investments. At the community level, we are also doing a lot of work on the risk-informed development, and this is more through the data collection in our integrated vulnerability assessments that we conduct from our office. And this assessment is the key document approach to inform the community adaptation planning, and then the Highland strategic plan, and then our national adaptation plan, which we call it the KCHIP. So in this IVA, we assess the 8 sectors, which are the health, the water, the food. So the key sectors that we have considered as priority, and then we assess them according to the different factors that are considering the economic, the social, the physical, the environment, or the ecosystem. So this community-based risk and vulnerability data collection approach is very important as well, because at the same time we do the awareness to our communities on the risk and the vulnerability that they are facing, and to inform their day-to-day planning, and especially the choices for their main activities or investments at the community and village level. So I guess these are what we have done from our side to try to embed this risk information in our infrastructure planning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Takena. You've given us a lot of food for thought here, and it seems like there is a lot, there are a lot of activities going on in Kiribati. Congratulations for having such a robust portfolio of risk-informed decision-making activities in your country. I think my next question to you is just around the collaboration efforts and partnerships, in terms of getting these activities off the ground. Because your office is one office, so we're curious to know how do you see collaboration efforts and partnerships changing the way risk information is valued in national planning, and how do you work with your with the partners that you have in Kiribati? Thank you, Takena.
Okay, thank you, Rachel, for the second question. And yes, in order to mainstream or integrate climate and disaster risk across the nation and the sectors, we really need to have a strong coordination mechanism. And as shared in my previous discussion on the first question, we have the KNIC, and this KNIC is comprised of multiple stakeholders, and it's not only governments. We have NGOs as well. We have church-based organizations. We have the rep from the private sector, and then the academia or the University of the South Pacific. So this KNIC, we have a number of subgroups that help to do the sector or more specific task and role. And one of these group we have on the research, and then the project coordination committee or group. So we see that these two groups are the key ones to try to keep everyone together and to know, and then also at the same time to share what each sector or organization is doing on the the risk or the vulnerability assessment they are doing. And this way we kind of um, keep informed and updated on what's our partners are doing at the country level, all across the sectors, in their different sectors and the pilot communities. So that way we keep on collecting and compiling all those information to ensure that we do not duplicate the efforts at different programs that they are doing to strengthen the community resilience or the climate change adaptation. So it's through our mechanism that we have in place, which is the KNIC, that we find that this information knowledge sharing is effective, because we have this key body that's try to keep everyone informed and updated on what's going on at the country.
Thank you so much, Takena. Our last question to you, as acting director for the NDMO in Kiribati, what practical advice would you give to other disaster managers about turning risk assessments, so risk data, risk information, into infrastructure decisions? Thank you, Takena.
I think from our side, and we see that the collaboration, the coordination, the partnership is the central components of having this risk information to be well embedded in the infrastructure planning, because we know that a lot of stakeholders will be involved in this work. And it's very important that to keep this partnership collaboration effective and well coordinated, because that way we don't duplicate effort and we maximize the resources to our benefits, the country benefit, and especially to achieve what we want for the resilience development and infrastructure development in our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Takena. With that, we will stop the recording here and then allow you to get back to the KNIC meeting that is currently happening in Tarawa. Thank you again, Takena, for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience as we went through that. You may have noticed that I asked Takena 3 questions during her time that she spent with me this morning. This is just because when we get to the second part of our session, our other esteemed speakers online will also have additional questions that will be asked by me. So we really wanted to maximize that time. I hope that's okay with everybody. And now you have a few more extra insights from Kiribati and directly from the acting director for NDMO there. So thank you again for that. Our next speaker is Mr. Filimoni Tangidakimbao. So he is the Senior Regional Portfolio Specialist for the Pacific region at the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, or CDRI. So Filimoni, thank you again for being with us this afternoon. Now it's afternoon in Fiji. I'm based in Samoa, so we're an hour ahead. So our question to you is, how is CDRI helping countries translate risk assessments into infrastructure design and investment? And what examples stand out as good practice? Vinaka Filimoni, and over to you.
Thank you, Rachel. Is it possible that you can share the PowerPoint that I shared in the morning?
Yes, apologies. Navneet, please, if I could just ask for your assistance. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just before I deep dive into the question that was asked, I think I'll probably just take a few slides, 2 or 3 slides, just to provide a brief overview of CDRI, as we are still relatively new in the region. And I think maybe some of the participants are still asking who is CDRI or what is that we do. I think I'll just probably take us through a few slides just before I answer the question that was posed by Rachel. Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you. The CDRI, or the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, is a global partnership of national governments, United Nations agencies and programs, different financing mechanisms of private sectors, and also multilateral development banks, which was launched back in 2019 at the United Nations Climate Action Summit in New York. With the main objective is to aim to increase the resilience of infrastructure systems to climate and disaster risks, ensuring a sustainable development. From its inception until to date, we have 52 countries that are now part of the coalition, with 10 organizations as well. Next slide, please. As I've mentioned, just the for CDRI, the what we offer, or the work that we do, it can be divided into three main components. The first one looks at global advocacy on DRI, and ensuring that there's a platform to share good practices or lessons learned from countries. And the second and the third component looks at building capacities and also technical assistance to seeds in the forms of the programs that we offer at CDRI. Next slide, please. I'd just like to highlight one of the global advocacy forum that we hosted, which is the International Conference for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, which was held in Nice in June this year, where a call to action was endorsed globally, and recommendations from experts that were engaged at that time, with the aim to safeguard communities in strengthening its adaptive capacity, and also to promote a sustainable development to coastal regions. The conference looks at unifying policy, finance, and also technical standards, where we convene leaders and experts to drive climate and infrastructure finance reforms. Next, please. One of the initiative with CDI, which is the Global Infrastructure Risk Model Resilience Index, which aligns very well to the discussion that we're having today. This is CDRI's robust data-driven approach to identifying and quantifying infrastructure risks and resilience globally. It is central to supporting evidence-based policy making in and resilient infrastructure development. It can be seen as a tool for policymakers and also investors to understand the potential risks to countries' infrastructure. For example, let's take an example for Chile. If you look at it, there's a need for the power sector to be resilient. It highlights the need for the power sector to be resilient to earthquake, as 61% of the sector at risk of earthquake. So by indicating these risks to natural hazards and climate change to critical infrastructure, GRI showcases the resilience dividend to be gained towards investing for a more resilient tomorrow. Next, please. Just looking at the second initiative, still at the very early stages. We're looking at developing a data and technology and tech strategy for CDRI, which we look at enabling CDRI and its members to use Earth observation and geospatial infrastructure risk data for risk-informed decision making. Next slide, please, with the core objectives of ensuring that data is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. I think one of the lessons that one of the challenges that's also been highlighted earlier, I think by Samantha during her opening remarks, in terms of data. If it's data that is not used, there's no point in having a data that cannot be used. So the strategy that CDRI is coming up with is looking at forming partnership with organizations and countries as well to ensure that data is accessible and findable for everyone to use for decision making and informed decision making. And just lastly, I'll just touch on the IRIS project, which I'm a part of for CDRI in the region, which looks at supporting countries in terms of providing small-scale projects, which looks at DRI. And I think has been mentioned by Takena earlier in terms of the two interventions that we're currently doing in Kiribati as well. One is being implemented by SPC and the other is being implemented by UNDRR. Just a snapshot of before you is just a snapshot of the types of assistance support that we are providing in terms of in this space in the various countries as well, in the region as well. And I'll just highlight two of the projects that we are currently implementing just to help respond to the question that have been asked by Rachel. The first one we'll be looking at next slides, please. The Fiji project, which looks at mapping and assessing, which more of looking at improving their multi-hazard early warning system or capability, which is currently being implemented by Live and Learn, one of the local NGO as well. With one of the core focus of the project is looking at the resilience of the telecommunication infrastructure sector. And one of the activities we are looking at is a multi-hazard risk assessment of cable landing stations. With the idea behind that, in every disaster, if there's no communication, I think, decisions are delayed or victims may be denied of their needs, and response, may take longer than expected. So the project looks at identifying or understanding the risk context, especially for cable landing stations, mapping existing wireless sites into the vulnerable regions, and making recommendations on mitigation actions for risk at cable landing sites. Looking at with the goal of the National Disaster Management Office and also the telecommunication sector for Fiji in ensuring reaching the last mile in terms of disaster information dissemination or warning, and also ensuring that no one is left behind in terms of during a response or in terms of during a disaster. And just lastly, I'll just touch on the SPC project, as I mentioned earlier, which focuses on addressing 5 common technical gaps, which was identified by SPC as well. The first one looks at bridging the gap of the non-availability of infrastructure and settlement assets data to support decision making at both local and also the national levels. Also looking at hazard data to support decision makers as well. The establishment of ICT database infrastructure for capacity to host geodatabases and visualization to make policy decision makers. And supporting for more staff, particularly in inclusion of women in this space for disaster risk management data, and also for resilient infrastructure and settlement. And lastly, just supporting the skills and capacity of the governments as well of the 3 countries. For this project, it's being implemented in Vanuatu, Kiribati, and Tonga. And for the technical gaps, the components that have been embedded to address this, or some of the activities and outputs, the conduct of survey for national survey of data, asset data, establishment of local journal databases for the 3 countries, exposure and hazard modeling as well, capacity building as well for the government officers and the marginalized group as well, including disability and women. And yeah, just looking at the dissemination of this learning across the countries as well. Just to note that CDRI is not only funding this initiative. This is yeah, we are co-funding with other program as well that SPC is running in parallel with the program as well. Thank you, Rachel. I think I'll just end there.
Thank you, Philemoni Vinaka. And I like that you have highlighted a couple of case studies from around the region. From to the best of my knowledge, CDRI is still quite, I guess, the activities of CDRI are still emerging a little bit in the Pacific, so it's great to have representation on the ground in the region. So thank you again for being willing to join this webinar and to share your insights as well. Great to see the application of risk data and information across our region as well, and to see that you have quite a robust tool to be able to help inform decision making across the region. I like that you've also re-emphasized the data part that was mentioned by Samantha at the start. That data and research that sort of sits on a shelf is and not being used should be used for the purpose that we intend it to at the end of the day. So thank you again for highlighting that. We've also noted some of the challenges that you mentioned on your last slide in terms of capacity building and inclusivity. And I think this is something that'll be sort of that we can touch on again in our rapid fire round of questions to all the panelists later on. Navneet, please, if I could just ask you if you could share the screen with the QR code. We're going to go and jump straight into our Mentimeter activity. So we'll give you a couple of seconds to scan the QR code if you'd like. If you would like to continue to use your laptop and open up a browser, I have shared the link to the Mentimeter in the chat. So please go ahead and do that. I'm just going to check to see how many people are logged in before I share my screen, and then we'll go through some of the questions. So maybe just let me refresh the screen quickly. And then we'll go ahead and do that. So please, if I could just ask you to, it's probably better if you use your smartphone. It's sort of easier to look at what's happening on your phone screen and then on our screen as well. And then if you prefer to use your web browser, you're also welcome to do that. If there's anybody that would like to give me a thumbs up that they've managed to log on using this QR code or the link that I provided in the chat, that would be very helpful for me to be able to see, please. If there is anybody who would like to quickly give me a thumbs up. No thumbs up yet. Oh, okay. I see one thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, a couple of thumbs up. So, all right. So we're slowly getting into that now. If it's okay with everyone, we're just going to go ahead. I will share my screen from my end, and then we'll go through the Mentimeter questions together. Okay, so I would just like to confirm that you can, sorry, pressed the wrong button. I'd like to just confirm that you can see my screen, if that's okay, with the various questions on it. Yes. Okay, I can see that we have 27 people online, so let's get straight into it. Okay, so our first question, please. In one word, what comes to mind when you hear risk-informed decisions? So that's an open question to everyone. I think you should be allowed multiple answers on your phone screen or on your laptop. So in one word, what comes to mind when you hear risk-informed decisions? Okay, so far we have resilience, great. Data analysis, lack of quality data, yes, thank you. 4 people who have, 5 people now. This is the hard thing when you do Mentimeter live. You have to sort of keep up with everybody that's submitting answers to your questions. So, okay, great. We've got more answers coming now. We've got 7 so far. So 7 out of 29 have given answers. Don't think too much about it. It's meant to be something that should, I guess, roll off your tongue fairly quickly. So I can't see who posted which answers. So if you're worried about that, don't worry. Don't worry too much. Everything is anonymous as well. So we're just here to sort of gauge your understanding or your comprehension of what risk-informed decisions mean to you. Thank you. All right, great. It seems like a lot of people are going for resilience, quality, critical, target audience, great, collaboration. Too complicated. Risk-informed decisions are too complicated. Okay, well, we hope that as part of this series as well, we're able to sort of unpack a little bit more and tackle those challenges a little bit more moving forward. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to skip ahead to the next slide, if that's okay. The next question is, what is the biggest challenge? Apologies, let me just move this. What is the biggest challenge in turning risk assessments into practice in your context? Okay, go ahead. We have 32 people logged online. We'd like to see some open-ended answers. Hopefully not too long of an essay, but just something quick that you can sort of think of. What is the biggest challenge in turning risk assessments into practice in your context? No process in which to do it, political will, capacity, legal frameworks. These are all excellent answers. Political influence, yes. Resources, yes. Competing priorities, yes. This is especially important when you have very small teams in country offices and you're sort of spread out throughout different meetings and workshops and travel and things like that. Insufficient data, legal gaps, political will. Yes, these are great answers. Not everyone sees data results leading to the same next steps. Risk for whom? That is a great question. Who are we talking about here? This could be yourself. This could be your community. This could be the industry that you work in. This could be your local economy. Lack of dedicated and skilled capacities, priorities diverted, enforcement, financing. All right, excellent answers. Thank you to the 13 out of 32 people that have responded. Again, in the interest of time, let's go ahead. And just to quickly let you know that if you'd like to add more answers later, you're more than welcome to. I will download the answers later on if you'd like to add more to that. So what is the most powerful enabler of resilience in your context? What is the most powerful enabler of resilience in your context? Looking forward to those answers. Communication. All right, great. Something that's often not thought about until the last minute. I know in the first event for this series, we did hear from Lisa Kingsbury at SPC, who talked about ensuring that communication is part of the planning process right from the start. So this is great. Reliable data and information, data, community awareness, communication again, strategic leadership, data again, leadership support. Great. What is the most powerful enabler of resilience in your context? Political buy-in, changing mindsets. Yes. Communication. So I think communication has come up a number of times now. I'm just seeing this on the screen. Resources, partnerships, timely early warnings. Yes. Early warnings have proven to reduce risk a lot, not only financially, but in terms of the assets that you have as well, in terms of lives lost as well. Strategic leadership, an expensive carrot. Okay. Planning and budgeting. Okay. Thank you to the 15 out of 34 that have contributed. Just remember, you can continue to contribute later on. I won't download until the end of the day today. In the interest of time, let's move on a little bit. We have 2 more of these to go. Which factor is the most critical for successfully embedding risk insights into decisions? So here you can vote. I guess you can move the scale along between the least critical and the most critical. So we have a few options here: leadership and mandates, technical capacity and tools, partnerships and collaboration, data accessibility, and behavioral change. All right. We're seeing quite a lot. Okay, yes, we have an average of 4.1. Sorry. Gosh, I'm gonna keep changing my answers now that you're all changing and adding new answers as well. This is great. So which factor is the most critical for successfully embedding risk insights into decisions? Also, if you feel that there's something that you would like to add to this list, we would welcome that feedback as well. Please feel free to send us an email later on. This is by no means an exhaustive list of everything that could be most critical, but we just want to sort of gauge from these ones that we have here, what your opinions and where the values of your organizations lie. Thank you. All right, great. Excellent answers. Okay, thank you to the 16 out of 35 people who have responded. Let's move on to the last one. So which cross-sector collaboration is most important for translating risk data into action? So you have a scale from the least important to the most important. We have disaster risk management and planning, DRM and finance, planning and finance, all of the above, or other. If you have an answer that is other, we would like to hear from you, please. So if you would like to send us an email following this webinar, we'd like to hear what your other option is. So which cross-sector collaboration is most important for translating risk data into action? Okay. I see a lot, 4.9 on all of the above. We're averaging around 3.2 at the moment. This is fine. Keep going, please. Remember, for those that are answering other, please send us your other option later on today. We would love to hear from you. Okay, there we go. All right, we're going to end this presentation here. As I mentioned earlier, please, if you have anything that you would like to add, in the other options, or if you would like to add anything later to the Mentimeter, I will leave it open until close of business today. You're more than welcome to go in and add in your extra points. Nothing will be recorded, so I cannot see your names or your email addresses or anything like that. So don't worry about that. It's all anonymous. So thank you so much again to everyone for participating in that short Mentimeter exercise. We have about 11 minutes left of our webinar now, and we have a few more rapid fire questions, if you will, just to go through with our speakers who are on board with us today. So Tony, please, if I could just ask you to come off mute and turn off your camera. Turn on your camera again. We will start with you with your first question. So in 2 minutes or less, can you tell us, Tony, what is one lesson you've learned about embedding risk evidence into national financial policy that other Pacific Islands could adopt? Thank you.
Thank you. I think joining with what we've discussed and what the other colleagues have said, I think it's important for us to ensure that risk is well embedded in our all our different levels of planning, as well as in different organizations that are responsible for the DRM space, in ensuring that the risk is well factored in all our plannings as well as our implementations and reporting. One thing that I've learned and from a point of view, I think we still need to ensure that there needs to be behavioral change, a change of mindset, not just within government agencies, but across as well, from the higher level down to lower level, including all our provinces, to ensure that everyone takes ownership and ensure that risk is well factored in all our different areas of work, including our planning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. And I think I agree with you there is that behavioral change plays a very, very important role and a crucial role in the uptake and the application of risk data information and assessments moving forward. So thank you again for highlighting that. Aholotu, I would like to invite you now for your second question as part of the rapid fire round of questions for our presenters today. Aholotu, what has been the biggest breakthrough in using risk data to design insurance solutions that truly meet Pacific needs? Thank you.
Sorry, Rachel, can you repeat it again? I think I couldn't be able
Sure.
to listen to the first part of your question.
No problem. What has been the biggest breakthrough in using risk data to design insurance solutions that truly meet the Pacific's needs?
Okay, excellent. I think I wanted to share with you what we had done recently with our product and policy that we issued to the countries. Initially, PICRIC was established and technically supported by the World Bank, and the design at the time was basically based on the technical knowledge of the World Bank and some information back 10 years ago. And then last year, we be able to use, I think, to revamp all the products that we designed and all the policy that we structure for the countries using the data that was available to us from the countries. And of course, using the data was provided to us by the World Bank, but it also provided us an opportunity to validate the information with the countries. And that's highlight the importance of using the data, making the data more available so that we can be able to validate the practicality of the policy and the product that we are going to offer the countries. But what is also breaking through, Rachel, is the effort of trying to pull all the countries. What I have seen when countries are trying to go individually to the market, the reinsurance market, or to secure parametric financial protections from other side of bilaterally from other insurers, the cost is very expensive. But when we pool together all the countries, in terms of coming together as a pool, we're pooling the risk and be able to penetrate the market price to go down. That allows us to give to the countries or provide to the countries an affordable rating for their policy. So that's a breakthrough simply because of the pooling arrangement, which is something new in the region. Before, most countries are thinking of the local insurers are going individually, but we always remember PICRIC is not a micro or meso level insurers. We are a development insurer that we are providing a sovereign on a macro level. Of course, if there are gaps in the market that people will be able to come in and provide that service. Like, say, for example, if no one is providing infrastructure protection policy, parametric policy for infrastructure sector, that's something that we can come into. I've heard from senior officials and also leadership in the Pacific, some of the local insurers are leaving the country because of the risk is high, the cost is high. So PICRIC can step in and providing that. There's also something that we are currently having a conversation with V20 in terms of providing a micro level parametric insurance on that level also. So to make sure that we not only provide the macro cover, but we provide on an individual level to make sure that our household can be able to access to an affordable and affordable instrument, no financial protection instrument. So breakthrough, I think, in terms of understanding the service that we offer. We breakthrough in terms of offering a very affordable pricing to the countries. A breakthrough is also meaning that we be able to secure resources to subsidize the premium for the countries. A breakthrough is also important to also note that the pooling, as I alluded to, that the pooling the pooling together of all the countries, as I said in my remarks, we have to work together to lower the price, because in the end of the day, it's the unaffordability of what the market is offering to us in the Pacific, and we cannot be able to go there alone. So we have to work collectively in the region, Pacific region, to offer this. And also to end up with saying there are only 4 risk pools in the world. There's one dealing with the Caribbean, one dealing with Africa and Southeast Asia, including for Big Creek. As you can see, these regions are bullying their countries in terms of creating and developing their policy and the product, obviously because of trying to lower the price and make it affordable to their member countries and the policyholders. I end there, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aholotu. I like that you emphasize the strength in numbers concept as well. I think that's very important for us here in the Pacific. Thank you again. Filimoni, we'd like to come back to you now with another question. In your view, what needs to change for risk assessments to become standard practice in infrastructure investment decisions? Thank you, Filimoni. Over to you.
Thank you, Rachel. I think just to answer that question, I'll just provide two response to that. The first one will be, in my view, looks at policy and regulatory mandates. I think, governments and development banks should require risk assessment as part of the project approval process. This means that embedding climate and disaster risk considerations into procurement guidelines, environmental impact assessments, and feasibility studies. And second to that is introduction of introduce legal frameworks that makes resilience a non-negotiable criterion for infrastructure investment. And the second part to that is data availability and accessibility, as I've mentioned earlier as well. As we all know, risk assessment rely on high quality hazard and exposure and vulnerability data. I think government and private sectors should invest in open data platforms and predictive analytics and encourage regional collaboration for shared data sets, especially for transboundary hazards like cyclones or floods. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Filimoni. And I know that we're almost out of time here, but I do see a couple of questions and a couple of comments in the chat box. So I think what you mentioned, Filimoni, at the last part about data accessibility is also something that we have been experiencing for many years in the region. So we do have a question from Conway Pene, who is online. The problem of finding and accessing data has been a problem for decades. Why is it still a problem? Would any of our speakers online like to take 30 seconds or less to answer this question? Go ahead, Aholotu.
That's a very good question, Rachel. And I think I agree. I couldn't agree more with the person who asked the questions, because it has been more than decades discussing this accessibility to data. But we also have to understand, while decision making will be more practical when we're using data, getting the data and consolidating data and gathering data, it's a very expensive exercise. And if you look back 20 years ago, much of the corrections of data was done by human resources, by human walking around and gathering information. These days we have the AI, the IT, we have the system, but at the same time, we need human resources to input the information. It requires a lot of resources, time, money, and expertise. But I think this is something that the countries in the region have to focus and prioritize it, to raise it to the donors. If you want this to do, in our regions, we are actually to prioritize it by giving a regional project rather than individual project and look into that. Because most of the data that we are using, I have to say, coming from NASA. And I was so surprised when we look into NASA's data, they have the information for the Pacific. And when we ask the regional organization in the Pacific, they don't have it. But at the end of the day, like what I said in my remarks, we have to go out to the countries to validate the information provided to us by NASA. So I guess it's an important question, but I think it requires a lot of political decisions, and then also require a lot of collaboration with the donors to really focus and prioritize this activity so that at least we fix it once and for all. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aholotu. And I know that our other speakers online today, Tony and Filimoni, you may also have other comments to add to this. So what we will be doing is we will be putting to a summary document that will be sent out to all of those that have registered today, with a few more answers to some of the questions. So don't feel like just because we're at the 1:30 p.m. in Fiji time mark that we won't be able to go through any more questions. We welcome your questions, we welcome your insights. This will help me as well be able to make a product that is tailored to this event specifically, and then be able to share it with you within a week. So just to wrap up, we're now 1 minute over time. Apologies, but I really just want to say thank you so much for everybody who has stayed online with us throughout this event. I know it's December now, and everybody's sort of winding down and getting ready for the holiday season. And I know that you probably have a few deadlines that you need to tick off before you go on your Christmas break. But I just wanted to say thank you again for making the time to join, not only to our distinguished speakers online, but also to all the participants who are still with us online. Just a few